and in time, they would come to be known as Dr. Monty and the Shadow Man.
And the Shadow Man.
Within the forces of the Keepers resided allies of humankind, each of them being suited with significance in later facets of space and time, one of those men being named Pablo Marinus, and during the war, he would be saved by 4 unknown heroes who would later themselves come to be known as Primus. Alongside Pablo, the Keepers, and the Wolf King, who would later be instructed by Primus to construct a castle named Der Eisendrache, Primus was able to defeat the Apothicons and end the war before seemingly disappearing from history. And so, it would be from here that the true beginning of the zombie storyline would really begin. "700 years after the events of the Great War, we find ourselves in the year 1908, where there would be the first recorded incident of a mysterious meteorite landing called Element 115. It would land near the Tunguska River in Siberia. It would be a little while before this meteorite was rediscovered, and so it was, years later, a German scientist named Ludwig Maxis would be sent to investigate the crash. In the wake of his findings, he formed Group 935, a research organization focused on improving the human condition. After seeing the potential of Element 115 and the growing global conflict developing, Group 935 would expand their operations. 3 years later, on November 5th, Maxis would hire a fellow German scientist named Eduard Richthofen. He would be brought on to Group 935 as a fellow head researcher, and on that very same day that Richthofen would be hired, Dr. Maxis's daughter would also be born. Her name was Samantha Maxis. During this time, other parts of the world were also beginning to experience crashes of Element 115. It would land in both a remote location in Japan and also in Groom Lake in Nevada. Their discoveries would spawn 2 other research groups from each nation, Division 9 and Broken Arrow respectively. However, a large focus of conflict would reside within Germany and in Group 935. Together, Maxis and Richthofen would conduct tests with the unknown element and begin teleportation experiments with the newly constructed matter transference prototype. Results remained unsubstantial until one of the test subjects came back reanimated, vicious, and most shockingly, undead.
Stand up. Stand up! Good. Look at me. Over here. Good. Now walk forward. Excellent. Further. Keep coming. It's all right. Stay there. Calm down. I order you. Kill it. Bring me another.
Many months of testing and varying results led Maxis to ultimately reach out to the Reichstag, the German government, for more funding. However, in this time, Dr. Eduard Richthofen would also be contacted by the Illuminati, and as such, would begin work with them in secret as well. Group 935 was going in a different direction, and they were leaning towards goals directed at addressing the growing global war. Richthofen fundamentally disagreed with this decision, as the original goals of the group were beginning to evaporate and becoming much more militarized. From what was once a group determined to improve humanity, changed into an effort to create an undead army and build wonder weaponry for the Führer and Nazi forces. Both Dr. Schuster and Dr. Porter were among the few researchers who were working on weaponry, and even though they had developed technology that was otherworldly, Richthofen began growing the seeds of distrust in both Group 935, but also specifically in Dr. Maxis. Instead, he would start focusing more on his own research. In fact, he would successfully teleport a walnut, only to be met with the belittlement from his once close ally in Maxis.
But this is not the crucial experiments that you are supposed to be working on.
With all due respect, Dr. Maxis, this is a breakthrough of unimaginable proportions.
What? That you moved a walnut a few feet? Yes, Edward. We will improve the human condition by revolutionizing the walnut industry. I can see it now. Edward's walnut delivery.
Don't be obtuse.
How dare you call me that? We are at war, Edward. I will admit that there is promise here. But until this war is won...
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Maxis, but Group 935 is a research organization. What was the motto? To improve the human condition? What business of ours is this war?
Fine, Dr. Richtofen. I will let you in on a little administrative secret. We are finalizing a deal with the Nazi Party. We need funding. We need equipment. They need new weapons. Chances are this war will end soon with a treaty or two, and we will be in a much better position to help the world.
Are you certain this won't cause massive defections? We have scientists from all over the world working with us.
That is why it is with the utmost confidence that I share this with you. No one will know of this. This is simply the breaking of an egg to make an omelet.
Think of the tactical advantage we would have.
Think of the cost. Think of the time. We can provide the Nazis technical expertise in various areas without putting all our eggs in your walnut basket. Good day, Edward, and get back to your real work. Bloody jerk.
I think Dr. Maxis has lost his perspective. No matter. We'll do this on our own and publish the findings before he has a chance to.
You're not suggesting that Dr. Maxis would steal this technology and perfect it without us, are you?
I would by no means discourage that thought. Great scientists must stick together and achieve great science.
And now, working truly in secret from the group, Richtofen, with the assistance of only Dr. Schuster, would use the functioning teleporters at the Duries facility to transfer himself willingly to the moon. There, he would encounter a mysterious pyramid device of alien origin, or more specifically, Apothecon origin. This unearthly device would be called the MPD by Edward Richtofen. However, something happened, something very bad. While he was investigating the device, he would be shocked by it and then began to experience voices in his head. This opened a vessel that could be used to communicate from other dimensions. The Shadow Man would be one of those voices appearing before Edward Richtofen.
Please, you must help me. Only together can we prevent the destruction of your world.
You cannot conquer that which you do not understand.
And now, with a connection established between Edward Richtofen and the Shadow Man, who knows what the consequences of this would be. After his time spent on the moon, Richtofen would be teleported yet again to a temple of unknown location, a place in space and time known only as Shangri-La. There's some debate about where exactly this takes place, but nobody really knows for certain. However, he would find an artifact there of great importance in the Focusing Stone, and after a period of being worshipped and venerated by the natives of that temple, he was teleported back to Earth. The thing is, though, the Richtofen that came back, however, was a very changed man. One with a much more sinister scheme at hand, aiming to reach Agartha in order to harness its power. In the time following the return of Edward Richtofen, Group 935 would expand their operations to more locations around the world. An abandoned theater near Berlin, Germany, the Wittenau Sanatorium, a deserted mental hospital. Another would be in Siberia near the original Tunguska meteor. Another would be in Der Eisendrache, or the Eagle's Nest, which is closer to Austria. And finally, Griffin Station, all the way on the moon. And still, with all of this expansion of the operations in Group 935, they had all of the funding they could ever ask for. With the German government and the Reichstag funding them, the one thing 935 could never get enough of is test subjects. They would need live subjects, humans, that would be subjected to very dark and inhumane experiments in order to further and push their technology development. And honestly, what better way to capture a live test subject than the enemy soldiers of the war that you're currently fighting? A total of 3 live human subjects would be initially captured. One was a drunken Russian, defeated by both German forces and despair and the wounds of war. The other, a Japanese warrior, betrayed by his emperor. And finally, a Mexican spy who was caught hiding within enemy ranks. Together, these 3, Nikolai Belinsky, Takeo Masaki, and Pablo Marinus, would become brainwashed into becoming Richthofen's minions on his quest to power, until an incident with Pablo's spleen required a last-minute replacement. However, in the meantime, an American soldier named Tank Dempsey, alongside John Banana, Smokey, and Gunner Ridge, would attempt to rescue Peter McCain, who had been captured. However, this plan was a disaster. All of the men were killed, except for Tank. He would be inevitably taken into custody by 935. Now, with Tank Dempsey as the third and final lackey, Richthofen would be ready to enact his plan.
Dr. Maxis.
The plan was simple. Richthofen would use the dog of his enemy's daughter as bait. After taking away Samantha's dog named Fluffy, he would put Fluffy into the device, running it, and then changing it forever. The damage done to Fluffy would be irreversible. Whatever it wasn't Fluffy anymore. It was something more akin to a hellhound. Samantha, having seen this, would run to her aid before Maxis intercepted the two to save his daughter. With them all now in the teleporter, Richthofen locked them in and sends them away, delivering it with the famous words, "Goodbye, Dr. Maxis." Richthofen's maniacal laughter would be heard echoing the halls of the Doris facility. The remaining scientists on hand, such as Dr. Porter, would take his own life at the burgeoning moments of the undead outbreak, and so it was that the Doris facility would be overrun with the monsters that they sought to control. It was not much different over at Griffin Station on the moon, where Samantha is chased by Richthofen's allies and indirectly into the MPD. Becoming drawn to the device, Samantha is teleported inside of it and soon thereafter corrupted by the Dark Ether. Dr. Groff is instructed by an irate Richthofen, learning of these developments, to teleport Maxis to the moon in hopes of coaxing his daughter out of the MPD. However, when he returns, he does so with the knowledge about merging with electricity from a realm known only to us as the Crazy Place.
I hope this works. Greetings, Dr. Maxis. Schuster, I should have known. Where is that rat Edvard? Where are we? And how did you get me out of that wretched...
None of that is important right now. Allow me to fill you in.
Samantha, honey, Daddy is here. Come, dear. Please, open the machine. Daddy will not let them hurt you anymore. Honey, Daddy knows he's made some mistakes. I am truly sorry that you were put through so much. When your mother died, I could not bear the thought of losing you, too. That's why I kept you so close. I did not mean to neglect you. I just wanted to know you were safe from harm.
Daddy!
I love you, Samantha.
I love you too, Daddy.
Can you do something for me? Something very important.
Yes.
Kill them all. We are doomed.
These were some of the final words to his daughter before taking his own life. In the wake of this catastrophe and the rage at her father's death, she beckons control over the ether and unleashes the undead onto the station, and as well as Richthofen at every turn moving forward. A few months prior to these events, an Allied plane would crash down, unleashing Element 115 on an airfield bunker in German-occupied Europe, leaving 4 lone Marines to fight till their last breath. This outbreak was not an after effect of Samantha's newfound power, but more so an accident due to Group 935. The bunker itself, however, had an unnerving aura around it, a much darker secret. Something wasn't right here, but it wouldn't be revisited for quite some time, and its true significance would not become relevant until much later. With a countdown timer now placed on Richthofen's head with Samantha trying to destroy him at every moment, he had to make allies with an unlikely bunch, and in a weird twist of fate, he had no other choice but to work with the very subjects he sought to use for his own personal benefit. Thus, it would be known to us as Ultimus. This crew would embark on their quest to get to the MPD and confront Samantha Maxis. Their first stop on this quest was the Rising Sun facility in Japan. It was here at this facility, run by Division 9, the Japanese faction experimenting with Element 115, and even Takio's former employer, where they would go to retrieve Richthofen's diary. With that crucial piece of the puzzle, they would return to the Dury's facility and use a teleporter in hopes of getting back to Samantha and using the diary's knowledge to weaken Samantha's hold on the ether. But unfortunately for Ultimus, something quite bad would happen. The use of the Wunderwaffe DG2 would overload the teleporter and send Ultimus to an abandoned theater in Berlin, formerly run by Group 935. Before leaving here, they would encounter various versions of Samantha's bedroom, and thus her psyche, using the teleporters while they were there, and they would learn just how corrupt the dark ether had made her. It was a terrifying glimpse into her mind, and with the picture becoming more clear, their resolve was stronger than ever in that they needed to defeat Samantha Maxis. A still operational lunar lander that was found at the Berlin abandoned theater would be used by Ultimus, and they flew to a Russian cosmodrome where they would free the lone soul of a man part of the Ascension group, one Anton Gersh. This man, Anton Gersh, this lone soul of the Ascension group, the Russian version of 935, would be absolutely horrified of Samantha's influence and imprisonment of him in the ether, and so Ultimus agreed to help Anton Gersh, and restoring the use of his Casimir mechanism eventually engulfed the crew and would shoot them further in time to the year 2011 to the location of the first ever Tunguska 115 meteor landing. However, this time it was no longer a research facility commandeered by Group 935, but instead a film location, and when the Ultimus crew show up, a movie is actively being filmed by the director, George Romero. The film in question was a feature named Call of the Dead. However, due to Samantha's influence, the movie went from a pretend zombie set to a genuine, real, undead threat.
Get back to hair and makeup. You don't look dead enough.
Come on, let's go.
That ain't in the script.
I did research for a World War II movie. I came across some old Nazi documents. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Element 115, necromancers, raising the dead, real creepy stuff.
We're completely surrounded! Come on!
The coolest thing? Some of that crazy shit happened right here.
Ultimus, however, stuck safely in a small room under the lighthouse. Primarily, Richthofen would communicate and would help guide the 4 remaining alive actors through this undead nightmare to retrieve a helpful artifact. This is probably a good time to explain that in zombies, there is a race living under the earth called the Vrilya. They are essentially a hybrid of lizard and human-like creatures with very superior intellect, and it's implied through the technology provided to humanity by the Vrilya is what allowed researchers like Group 935 or Division 9 to fully utilize and take advantage of Element 115, because without the Vril technology, 115 would be something that humanity could never contend with. So Richtofen knew this and sought to harness an artifact specifically made from the Vril. And Richtofen had his eyes set on something specific, an artifact called the Golden Rod. Being chased by the zombified director of their film, and now Sarah Michelle Gellar, Danny Trejo, Robert Englund, and Michael Rooker would find the rod. They would even power it, and they delivered it to Richtofen, sending Ultimus away to a remote temple. But something was wrong, because this wasn't the first time the crew had been here, or at least not Richtofen anyways. This was the very same temple, the Shangri-La, where he was once worshipped and venerated by the inhabitants. However, this time they weren't alone. There were two more souls stuck here in an unending time loop and cycle. We don't really know how they managed to find their way into Shangri-La, but they were in a never-ending cycle of exploration and subsequent death. These expeditioners were named Brock and Gary. With Ultimus's help, they were actually freed from their never-ending hell, and in return, they helped Ultimus unlock access to the Focusing Stone, another Vril artifact. With all of the parts required for his plan, Ultimus would try to teleport to the moon once again, but the use of the 3179 JGB-215, or the baby gun, overloaded it once again and sent them through time and space back to the Pentagon in the 1960s. This is the second time that Dempsey would accidentally cause these interruptions in Richtofen's plan. It honestly kind of makes sense why he hates him so much now. In any case, after the crew teleported once again, they ended up in the Pentagon, which was experiencing its own outbreak at that moment. Ultimus used all of the machinery and assets that Broken Arrow had left over to build and directly establish a teleporter to Groom Lake, which would then give them access to the moon base. However, Samantha knew what was going on, and she had another trick up her sleeve. Through the power of her persuasion and being able to communicate directly with souls in the Dark Ether, she managed to convince a Yuri Zavoisky, who was a previous Ascension Group member, to head to the Pentagon directly to stop Ultimus. But what she quickly realized was that she was too late, and Yuri Zavoisky didn't get there in time, for Ultimus had already escaped and established a connection to the moon base. However, Yuri Zavoisky's presence didn't go unnoticed, as a JFK, a Richard Nixon, Robert McNamara, and Fidel Castro would meet there the day after to discuss mutually assured destruction, leaving them to deal with Yuri himself and the undead outbreak. With all of the necessary parts gathered, and at the precipice of Richtofen's goal, they teleport to Griffin Station and harness undead souls to open the MPD and reveal Samantha, thus weakening her grip with the ether. As more souls are gathered, Richtofen pulls the lever and finally enacts his grand scheme that he's been plotting all along, swapping souls with Samantha and giving himself control of the ether, one step closer to reaching Agartha. Richtofen intended on leaving her and the rest of Ultimus for dead, but Maxis, now merged with the electricity at the station, aimed to help them weaken Richtofen's link to Earth. And how did he do this exactly? By what means did he achieve this? By literally crippling the Earth itself. Maxis would launch 3 separate rockets at Griffin Station, all towards Earth, making it its striking point. And with all of these rockets colliding, it would absolutely obliterate and cripple the Earth, and thus Richtofen's connection to the ether and the Earth as well.
You fool! I should never have trusted you! Stop the madness, Edvard. We were supposed to help the human condition, not destroy it. I know what you are up to, and I will not allow you to succeed. I have done all I can. I certainly hope those calculations were correct. Well, that was a much larger explosion than I anticipated.
All of this pain these tribulations and struggle that Takio and Tank and Nikolai went through, only to get betrayed by their puppeteer in the end. Now stranded on the moon with no hopes of rescue, Richthofen had no intention of helping them out either. There's hardly a lonelier circumstance to be abandoned on the moon and the only home you've ever known now burned to rubble. The Earth is tough, and its survivors are no different. Meanwhile, over on Earth, in the remnants of a fractured Nuketown testing facility, both the CDC and the CIA are fighting off hordes of the undead, all the while witnessing the transfer of power between Richthofen and Samantha Maxis.
Hello, Samantha, you little brat. The time is coming. Soon. So soon. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Finally, we can confront this little beast. Quickly, power up the machine.
These survivors battling on Earth would meet their grisly end at the hands of one of the 3 rockets sent to Earth by Maxis. Inside a bunker, however, underneath the facility, resided one Marlton Johnson, who survived with his intellect and sharp thinking to avoid the nuclear blasts, surviving yet another day in hopes of locating more survivors to improve his chances of survival. He would eventually gather the courage to leave the bunker and escape the facility, locating more survivors and trying to venture off on his own until he met 3 others on this now broken Earth. The first was a girl named Abigail Brierton, otherwise known as Misty. The second was a former Broken Arrow employee who has secrets of his own, and the only name we have for him is Russman, and the other a neurotic older man named Samuel Stuhlinger. Now with Misty, Russman, and Stuhlinger by his side, the soon-to-be Victus crew would travel to Washington, D.C. based on the words of Stuhlinger's voice in his head. This voice, appearing before him and guiding Stuhlinger, would be none other than Edward Richthofen himself. Now, it's worth talking about why Stuhlinger is able to hear Richthofen. It's not just because he's a little bit more on the unhinged side. Just as Richthofen initially touching the device that became a vessel and allowed these voices, namely the Shadow Man, to appear to him in his head, similarly, eating any amount of zombie flesh, which is very commonly what survivors on the Broken Earth would have to do for food, eating any kind of zombie flesh would thus establish a connection between that vessel and Richthofen. And so Samuel Stuhlinger was constantly at the whim of hearing Richthofen's voice in his head and whatever he wanted him to hear.
In this new world, we alone are your salvation. We alone can light the way. Hear our words. Heed our call. There is but one path to enlightenment. Just as they would consume us, we must consume them. We are the living, and we are the dead. We are the flesh.
It was at this Hanford site that they were also persuaded by both Richthofen and now Maxis, who was communicating through electricity. They traveled around the town using a broken down bus piloted by an amusing yet crude robot named Ted. Along this quest, they would encounter an entity known only as Avogadro, who held an ominous resemblance to the Broken Arrow landmarks surrounding Victus. They ultimately activate the pylon there in Maxis's favor, and then are teleported by Richthofen to the destroyed skyscrapers in China, where they experience a vicious cycle of death, with Stuhlinger repeatedly being told to accept your fate and begin anew.
I don't understand. Why are you doing this? Why me? Travel where? Don't you get it? There's nothing left! Oh, how did you... What? What do you mean, mend the rift? Well, maybe I don't wanna. Huh? Did you think of that? Oh, you can't tell them about the flesh! What I did, they'd kill me if they knew. Ah, shit!
If you're gonna talk to your imaginary friends, Stu, you might want to wait till you're in a Z-free zone.
Stuhlinger! Get over here, now!
Come on, come on! What do we do now?
We arm up, find a good place to defend, kick ass, that's it.
I don't understand.
What are you talking about, Stuhlinger? Misty made it pretty clear.
Accept your fate.
Fucking Robin.
We're going down! We're going down! Fight!
Have we been here before?
It is here that we find a little bit more about Stuhlinger's origins. Through an intercepted radio broadcast, we learn of a group called the Flesh, who eat zombie body parts, and thus all of them can hear voices in their head.
Attention all on this channel. This is George Barkley, former Assistant Director of the CDC facility in Druid Hills, Georgia. Prior to the destruction of our headquarters, our research found evidence that contaminants are now infecting the very air we breathe. As such, exposure of some sort appears inevitable for all survivors. Symptoms are variable, but most subjects display short-term memory loss, psychosis, delusion, and paranoia. Short-term memory loss has also been reported, but as of yet, have been unable to confirm this. We advise all individuals to monitor their fellow survivors for signs of the above symptoms. Paranoia in particular. Ask yourself, are those closest to you really who you think they are? Are they following their own secret agenda? Are they perhaps plotting against you? The dangers presented by such symptoms cannot be overstated. It was with deep sadness that I myself was forced to euthanize 14 members of my own team. My condolences to their families. I hope this message serves as a warning to all survivors. We must all do whatever it takes to ensure our future as a species. Thank you.
And we can only assume that Stuhlinger has this guidance as he was once a member of this group called the Flesh. Here, on this broken-down Chinese skyscraper, Victus is met with yet another choice, to activate the pylon in either Dr. Maxis or Richthofen's favor. Not really sure who to trust either way, as Richthofen is communicating directly with Stuhlinger, and Maxis is communicating with the rest of the crew via any kind of electrical signals he can manage, and so it's a bit of a tough choice, but ultimately, they put the pylon in Maxis's favor. After this, Victus would go on a very long journey, traveling by foot, and they were guided by Richthofen to one final location, an Angolan mining site, which happened to house an old western town underneath, once known as Purgatory Point in the late 1800s. This western town contained the final pylon needed to help their benefactor access their power. Seeing a massive rift right here in the earth before them, they knew they were reaching an endpoint. Something had to give somewhere, and so after traveling down these mining shafts and ending up in the old abandoned town, Victus would meet a gentle giant named Arthur, who once served the Wolf King of Der Eisendrache. After scattering his master's remains over the castle in the 1300s, he mysteriously got teleported to the old buried town, and to where this point now, he would help the crew on their journey. But Victus would uncover a number of more mysterious things while in this old western town, a large mansion inhabited and haunted by a ghost woman who sought to protect the Pack-a-Punch machine from anyone who drew near. For reasons not fully explained until later on in the story, it is recorded by a blacksmith, Jebediah Brown, in 1885, that he was told by two angels, Monty and the Shadow Man, to create a weapons upgrade machine using Element 115 from the mines under Purgatory Point. However, the exposure to Element 115 caused an infected member of the town to bite Jeb's mother in the throat, eventually killing her.
First home he stumbled upon was me and Ma's. I was at the shop at the time. Ma went out to meet him, and Clive, Doc said it happened quick. Clive jumped on her. First home he stumbled upon was me and Ma's. I was at the shop at the time. Ma went out to meet him, and Clive, Doc said it happened quick. Clive jumped on her, ripped her throat. Old Bill ran over, put two through Clive's skull, shot him dead, like a dog. But Ma, she's been laid to rest now. She'll rise up to heaven. Bless her soul, she'll be greeted with open arms. It was last night. When I slept, I had a vision. Two angels came down to me from heaven. They told me I needed to be ready to prepare for what was coming. And what was coming, they would not tell me, but how to prepare. Build a machine, they said. A machine that will grant you great power.
In mourning and using poor judgment, Jebediah places his mother's body in the Pack-a-Punch machine, only for her to return as a ghastly spirit, the same one that Victus fends off in 2025 here. This old western town, buried underneath Earth's crust, would have so many dark secrets of its own that would probably be left buried to the rest of history, and if it hadn't been for Victus to find and encounter this, most people would have never known about any of these things. But ultimately, the crew, not seeming to trust Richtofen's intentions and activating the pylon in favor of Maxis, in a turn of events, it would be Maxis himself that turned out to be the untrustworthy one of the two all along, as his prolonged exposure to the dark ether corrupted him. Despite his once righteous goals of removing Richtofen from power and the banishment of his soul into a zombie, Maxis would be the one to perish alongside that reality.
Has begun. Now I control the ether's energy. I can at last reach Agatha. Ah, you fools! Why did you listen to him? Regretfully, I must inform you that neither the Earth nor its people will survive. Ah, I tried so hard to warn you. Don't cough! Once the gateway is open, I will finally be reunited with my dearest Samantha.
Hello? Are you forgetting something? Even if your wretched daughter is still alive, she has my body!
If you are so eager to re-enter the physical world, Richtofen, I will grant you that fish!
In the void left by its implosion, a rift would open for some still left within this dimension. One would be for Samantha, who would be transported to the moon to a house in Agartha. Another for Victus and the now zombified Richtofen, taking them to another reality, or more accurately, another dimension entirely.
My name is Samantha. I'm going to tell you how all this really began.
In this new world that Samantha found herself in, she felt lost, abandoned, trapped, and with no means of accessing her powers outside of the ether, she communicated from a place called the House to the only person who she sought fit to help, her father. The version of him she called upon resided in a dimension ravaged by the battles of the First World War.
Began long ago, on the battlefields of the Great War.
And so, it would be here that in northern France, an excavation was taking place, helped by two German scientists, a much younger Dr. Maxis and an Edward Richthofen, who sought to harvest dark and mysterious forces buried for centuries. Believing their discovery could help ensure the victory for Germany, they couldn't have imagined what their research would truly unearth. Ancient Templars from a century-old Great War rose back to life after exposure to Element 115 and wreaked havoc on the unsuspecting soldiers who inhabited the site. With the hordes ever increasing, Maxis would get caught in the crossfire, and it was left to his ally to save him by any means necessary. Being beckoned by their respective nations to uncover what happened at Excavation Site 64, younger versions of Tank Dempsey, Nikolai Belinsky, and Takeo Masaki intercepted an operation in its final stages. The young Richthofen had desperately tried to save his friend by removing his brain before the infection could set in. But before any more interrogation could take place, massive 1,000-foot tall robots would stomp through the battlefield. Each one named after a Norse god, Freya, Odin, and Thor. Fighting their way through the dreary and muddy trenches of World War I, where it rained and snowed and they battled through the undead, they eventually made it to the mound, and at its base inside stood 4 lone statues, each resembling a member of the crew. The prophecy, in some odd way, came to pass, as Primus, the heroes from the Great War, had returned reincarnated, and among their shrines were pedestals for 4 elemental staffs. Now being instructed by the little lost girl, whose voice seemed to resemble Samantha Maxis, Primus was instructed to follow 8 specific steps, those being the same ones that Alex Mason would follow to escape Vorkuta 50 years later. In following her commands, Primus would acquire the copies of the ancient elemental staffs that were developed by her father, Dr. Maxis. Richthofen, during this time, would also use the remnants and scraps left behind in the war to construct a drone vessel to house Maxis's brain so that he could communicate and become mobile again. With Maxis's help now, they would venture to a realm called the Crazy Place, the same place that the older Dr. Maxis learned to use and harness the power of electricity at. This time, however, it was used to open a portal to Agartha, where Primus would battle with blood, sweat, and tears to defend, so that the innocent being of Dr. Maxis could ascend to the realm above. This was freedom, something Richthofen had hoped for when he saved his friend from sure demise. With Maxis safely ascended and the portal now closed, Samantha would thank Primus for his safe passage, while also instructing them to enter through a portal to learn of their true calling, that being to save the innocent souls of themselves scattered among time and space and to deliver them to the house. As for Samantha, now adjusting to her new reality inside of Agartha, she was now accompanied by her father and another child named Eddie. Together, the children would play with figures that seemed to resemble Primus, Ultimus, and Victus, and before Eddie had a turn to play, Maxis instructed them to lock the windows and come down to the basement.
As the gates to Agartha opened, the 4 heroes were rewarded with riches beyond imagination. From that day forward, they knew that Samantha would keep them safe. Forever.
Getting everything wrong. I told you before their eyes should be blue.
It's my turn, Eddie. I can do whatever I want.
But...
Hey, Sal, We must have been through this 50 times already.
And we'll go through it another 50 if that's what it takes. 9:30, lights out. God begins his rounds. How we doing tonight, Ferguson? Family good?
Yeah, doing great, Mr. DeLuca. My boy Tommy, he's almost 6 now.
Ain't that swell?
Hey, Finn. Get that tip for Saturday's race yet?
I'm working on it. Right now.
You gonna shut him up? Or do I gotta do it?
You know the rules, handsome. No talking.
9:35, the Weasel launches into his song and dance routine.
Damn it, Arlington.
You gotta get the doc.
Better be the real deal this time.
Once the Weasel gets the keys, we move on to stage 2. Let's get moving.
Here you go, fellas. Courtesy of the Warden's private collection.
Boys in the laundry stashed the parts?
Of course they fucking did.
What the fuck? I killed him.
You've been in the joint too long, Al. You've forgotten how to get shit done.
Sometime after the beginnings of this reality, in San Francisco on the island of Alcatraz during the Prohibition era, 4 mobsters would find desolation and hell in the form of eternal purgatory. Believing to be punished for their wrongdoings and sins, the island had transformed into an undead hellscape where they would be tormented by the Warden forevermore. After having killed Stanley Ferguson twice to initially escape, the inmates Sal DeLuca, Finn O'Leary, Billy Handsome, and Al Arlington would devise an escape plan to escape Alcatraz. But with the plan going sour, after escaping the rock, getting set off course, and flying onto the Golden Gate Bridge, a wrench thrown into their escape, they tried to devise a new one when suddenly electric chairs appeared in front of them on the bridge, foreshadowing their inevitable fate. They would use the chairs to bring them back to the island, repeating the process until the truth of what really happened was revealed, learning that they were in an eternal loop, paying for their sins in life and an escape plan gone murderous, with their souls being toyed with by a higher power, one that the Warden himself served. They blamed the Weasel for their failure, but unbeknownst to the mobsters that he was following the will of the Shadow Man as a means of opening a gateway into the world. The Warden would let the rest of the cycle play out as necessary, and in an act of vengeance, a fight would break out on the bridge. Angry and hopeless, the 3 inmates would attempt to kill the Weasel, outnumbering him with pure firepower. He fought hard and mysteriously gained assistance from the undead during the struggle, but ultimately it was not enough, and he would die by their hand just as the prophecy had foretold. Now trapped in this endless cycle of violence with no means of escape, there seemed to be no hope or respite for this dimension, and it was now ripe for the Shadow Man's arrival. The Weasel was the key in all this, however. He was different, and he knew it.
Rejection hurts, but it's not the worst thing, is it, Albert? What really hurts is to be ignored. You know how that feels better than anyone. Sure, they want your skills, your expertise, but only on their terms. They don't care what else you have to offer, how different you could be. If only they noticed you. If they don't already suspect you, they will soon. And then what? What will you do when the truth's revealed? When your whole house of cards comes tumbling down? Will you confess? Or will you run? Where will you run, Albert? All around the mulberry bush? There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. You'd have to show them, Al. You'd have to show them just what the Weasel was really capable of. You know, there's only one way this is gonna end, Al. Poor Weasel.
Hey, you. I know I yelled at you real bad. I know I said some things I shouldn't have said. But I was just angry. Upset. You know how close I am to this movie deal. I mean, they know about my dancing, but those pictures... You don't want to mess up my chance for stardom. Do you, baby? What do you say? You bring over those prints and we can... make up.
Hey, we got a problem. A big problem. The mayor's trying to make a name for himself, sticking his nose where it don't belong. He's looking into allegations of police bribery. What do you say we get together at the usual joint? Talk things through. Figure out a way to put this to bed before it gets out of hand. Trust me. Have I ever steered you wrong before?
I ain't fought in 18 months. I'm stepping at the last minute. I only got 2 weeks to train. But the outcome ain't in any doubt. See, I ain't leaving nothing to chance. He may be the #1 contender, but his career ends tonight. You just make sure the ref knows to look the other way, because this ain't gonna be pretty. But once it's done, once you collect your debts and your bets, I get my shot at the title.
I do understand the seriousness of the situation. Why else would I be talking to my lawyer? But just to be clear, can you please tell me precisely how much debt my wife has accumulated? Do you happen to know if our life insurance policies are fully paid up? No, no. I can assure you, I'd never, ever think of taking such a course of action. No, I just want to make sure that our affairs are, in order.
I have been watching. I have seen each and every one of your misdeeds. I know who you are. But questions remain. Why do you do the things you do? Do you not see the futility of your tiny, insignificant existence? You are but fragments of a bigger universe. Your sins serve only as an invitation. An invitation to an evil beyond your imagination. I'll lead the way. I will show you the path. Only through me, the Shadow Man, will you find your redemption.
Finally escaped from the clutches of the Dark Ether, the Shadow Man entered the physical world and used disguises and trickery to slither his way into the center of the underworld. He was trying to obtain a valuable artifact from the Keepers called the Summoning Key. He was led here to a place called Morgue City. Here, he would play the same game as he had done before with the mobsters to gain what he wanted. He would contact the Four under the name Mr. Rapt. This was a disguise. This mysterious figure, Mr. Rapt, would put pressure on the Four to commit these terrible sins, setting them up for a need to seek out redemption.
As you can see, these documents give some indication as to the considerable amounts of money we are talking about.
My client would never have signed the authorization on these loans.
Nonetheless, there it is, in black and white, signed by the Mrs. herself.
Nero's family estate is not what it once was. Even if these documents are genuine, we'll need some time to get our affairs in order.
I would advise your client that our company intends to aggressively pursue settlement within 1 week. 15 days at the most.
Look, I need to make a call. My secretary will see you out.
Now, by the actions of his own hand as Mr. Rapt, he would weaponize the sins of a magician, Nero Blackstone, a burlesque dancer named Jessica Rose, a boxer named Floyd Campbell, and a corrupt cop named Jackie Vincent. He would also mark them with Apothicon language and provide them with the means to enter the Keeper's stronghold, telling them the Shadow Man himself would provide all the necessary incentive for them to seek out a means of redemption by obtaining the key for the Shadow Man. While gathering the gateworms and the key itself, they would have to fend off the Keepers, who deemed them dangerous as they acted on the Shadow Man's orders. The Protectors were ultimately thwarted off by the crew as they descended into their stronghold, and the cracked walls in the rail station would open and reveal an underworld, this entirely concealed stronghold of the Keeper race hidden just below the surface of Morgue City. In order to acquire the gateworms and thus gain access to the summoning key, it would require a blood sacrifice, someone that each of these four had wronged. Some were used for selfish means, others were wrongly killed. In the end, though, this would be the same sins that Mr. Rapt pressured them to commit. They would be forced to face the worst parts of their sins within themselves. The gateworms would allow them to access the Keeper's stronghold. On these walls lay the markings of a great battle, the great battle from eons past. This would be the same one where the Keepers and the Apothicons, locked in vicious battle, would fight to the death. After doing what he requested and handing off the key to the Shadow Man, he would finally reveal his true form to the crew and attempted to leave them for dead, as he had done many times before. Learning the truth about what really happened, the Keepers returned to aid the crew in their quest for revenge. The Shadow Man, thinking he had won, was just as quickly met with an army ready to launch a counterattack in the very sanctuary they helped him reach.
The apocalypse was the ancient order of the Keepers.
Why do you persist? Do you not see the futility of your efforts? Accept your fate and kneel before your new master.
I don't kneel for anyone.
Why do you insist on challenging me? What hope do you think you have?
Why do you continue to taunt us? Didn't you already get what you wanted?
Does the guilt haunt you? It should. You are the ones responsible for everything that has transpired.
We were just patsies in your grand scheme.
You're gonna be eating those words soon enough. If nothing else, I can still shoot for vengeance.
My fate is in my hands, not yours.
Your only purpose now is to suffer.
The fact you're still talking trash makes me think we got you worried.
Let the games begin. You cannot conquer that which you do not understand.
I persist because I'm a persistent son of a bitch.
Your efforts are as insignificant as your very existence. Your world belongs to us.
Don't go thinking your fancy words confuse me. I know what all this means.
How could this be? This was not what was foretold in the prophecies.
Wait! What are you doing? You are but mortals! But in my heart, I know many more dimensions will be lost forever as we continue our journey towards peace. Forgive me.
After the Shadow Man would be defeated and locked away inside the summoning key, the Keepers entrusted the crew with the summoning key in hopes of its safe passage from the Dark Influence. But before they could hand it over, Richtofen, not seen in years and prepared for the journey ahead, would jump in and steal the key. And Richtofen, leaving just as quickly as he arrived, left that reality without a means of protection. This dimension would eventually succumb to Apothicon rule without the protective power of the summoning key and be wiped out from existence. But in order for Primus to continue their journey, they would have to go back to where it all truly started. Primus traveled back to the Duries facility where they planned to intercept a Richtofen having just sent Samantha and Dr. Maxis away.
Maxis. This ain't funny, Doc.
Turn around. Slowly.
Do you know who I am? Yeah, we know. That's why you better do exactly what we say.
A great evil approaches. There is a chain of events that must be set in motion.
Future hangs by a thread. You must awaken the test subjects.
Richtofen, whatever you're thinking of doing, don't do it!
You do not want to meet what's on the other side of that door.
You cannot begin to comprehend the great evil you could unleash.
Damn it, Richtofen, I thought we were done with this! What can I say, Dempsey? Things change.
Only a fool would dare to change history.
I am no fool. What I do only to secure a better tomorrow. Yeah, well, let's see if we live to see it.
Acting on orders to secure his soul, they would try to reason with him, but it was to no avail. He would brazenly open the teleporter door, surprised to be met with his Primus counterpart, who eliminates his other self without skipping a beat. Plans be damned now. Richtofen, disgusted by this future version of himself, explained that what he did to only secure a better tomorrow. Seemingly having gathered his soul in the chaos, Richtofen keeps the others on a need-to-know basis to chart their next course of action, which would be to acquire Dempsey's innocent soul.
This wasn't how it was supposed to go. We were supposed to secure the package and be in and out clean. Instead, the whole thing's been one disaster after another.
Eat my blade, beast!
Today, you die! 4, 3...
First I took your legs, now I take your life! I should never have trusted you, Richtofen. Never.
The place they would go to find Tank Dempsey's body would be at the Eagle's Nest once again, or Der Eisendrache, the same castle that Primus and the Keepers had constructed many years ago. Traveling to the base by gondola out of a small village in Austria, upon reaching the top and hoping to now disguise himself as the version of himself he had just prior killed, Richtofen would attempt to fool Dr. Groff into sending Dempsey back down from his shuttle en route to the moon. Using both time travel and the ethereal bows left at the site by the Wolf King and the Keepers that resided there, they would successfully bring him back down to Earth. However, they would be exposed as imposters because of this. this, Groff would activate a containment field over Dempsey's chamber to stop Primus from accessing him. Luckily enough, though, they were somehow able to teleport the MPD from Griffin Station down to the Eagle's Nest, and upon opening it, Primus would have to fight a massive keeper who had himself been corrupted by the Dark Ether. This intense battle, while not personal towards the Keeper, it was necessary in doing the right thing. After defeating the Keeper, the MPD would help power the key so that they could overturn Dr. Groff once and for all. Appearing as a strange form of deja vu from Moon, the 3 rockets were this time sent from the Earth all the way up to the Moon, blowing it up and Dr. Groff alongside it. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Primus would walk towards Dempsey's pod when, out of nowhere, Richthofen used the key to halt the others.
This subject will one day wreak havoc across the entire universe. He cannot be allowed to live.
This wasn't how it was supposed to go. We were supposed to secure the package and be in and out clean. Instead, the whole thing's been one disaster after another. I should never have trusted you, Richthofen. Never!
You should trust me, Dempsey. You all should. This artifact has the power to contain and preserve the subject's soul. Your soul. But it can only be done after the moment of death, just as you saw me do to my other self. It is the only way.
Wait! If someone's gotta take him out to save the universe, then it should be me that does it.
Good to see you, Tank.
Very understandable words from Dempsey in the heat of this betrayal, and in a weird way, it would resemble what happened to the other crew on the Moon. However, it would be a bit different this time, as Richthofen would argue back that they could not simply save their vessels. They had to be killed, and they had to be the one to bear that burden alone. Dempsey, regrettably understanding the situation now, insisted that he be the one to do it. Now faced with himself, he would show his other self mercy by shutting off the machine and allowing his soul to be captured within the summoning key. In this moment, Primus would begin to bond and understand the stakes and the weight of their assignment, accepting their fates instead of fighting it and heading out now in search of the next Takio soul. Entering another new dimension, Primus would enter the Pacific Ocean in search of an island housing the next soul. In the dark waters, Division 9 would intercept and capture the crew onto their vessel and asking them trying to ascertain the purpose of what the summoning key was for.
Take it easy, Tack.
I'm sorry. I don't speak Japanese.
The object in your hand? It's gonna bring you nothing but pain. Believe me, I know.
I am an envoy of the Emperor himself. I am no traitor!
little too close.
We must go, now!
They would eventually drift closer to the mainland and then swim to shore on the island. But it would be here, on the island itself, that Primus would discover something truly terrifying. The horrors here were as disturbing as the stench of death that they left, as experimentation with 115 on plant life and on humans created abominations unlike anything ever witnessed before, eventually reactivating an old elevator at the facility after battling through a massive mutated spider. Primus would plunge to the depths of Division 9's most foul secrets, and there would be a mutated horror waiting at the bottom for them, not even in control of itself. This monstrosity would be unrecognizable and beyond warped. However, after using Division 9's own biological weapons against it, it would be revealed to be Takio himself, or the one of that dimension anyways.
Your eyes, I recognize them. Almost as though they were my own. Takio Musaki. I did not believe I would find you in such a place. I was a warrior. I fought many great battles for the glory of our nation, for the honor of the dying samurai spirit. I was a hero. I share this memory. I have lived many of the same victories. I later learned that my victories were unwelcome. His betrayal was driven by petty jealousy. He knew I could endure anything, that I feared not even my own death. Punishment is one thing. This is cruelty. Who could be so evil as to desire another soul to endure such suffering? Who amongst us could be so dishonorable? Are you so blinded by your own loyalty? The orders came from the Emperor himself. My life, my path, is built upon a lie. This realm may have been corrupted and consumed by evil, but we possess the power to change things. The better tomorrow is only possible if we blow away the ashes of the past. None of us choose the means by which mercy will find us. But I am at peace. I understand what must be done. Will you be my Kaishakunin? It is my honor.
Guess it's you next, Nikolai.
I know. There is something else we must do. There is a chain of events that must be set in motion.
A harsh reality for anyone to accept, and Takio, no less, having to take the brunt of this made Primus bond with him even more. But before going after the final soul, Richthofen would make one extra stop. They would head to the lab under Alcatraz, the same one that he had built when he worked with the Illuminati, and this lab was safe, or almost safe. This is where they would acquire the blood vials from another version of Richthofen waiting for them. That Richthofen tells them that it's an insurance policy in case they don't like where they end up, and they have one more soul until everything is done. 3 down, 1 to go. Traveling once again to yet another separate dimension, Primus travels out of an aurora borealis in the sky into a war-torn Stalingrad and uses an already dead Peter McCain to parachute safely down onto the land. Once arriving on the ground, they come into contact with Nikolai immediately, who is seen piloting a mech and is clearly very intoxicated. He instinctively shoots at Primus before getting picked up and tossed by a dragon into a collapsed building. Stuck in his he asks the crew for help to retrieve one of them and help him fight off the dragon. This reality became clear that it was truly broken beyond repair, as dragons and giant robots like the ones from Excavation Site 64 ravaged the landscape below. Clearly, something had been badly fractured in this reality, and it was corrupt beyond anything that could ever hope to be fixed. One interesting discovery would be made, though, in that Sophia, who would be Dr. Maxis's assistant and partner in the original dimension, would be found here, with her consciousness uploaded to the machine, cleverly named Sophia. The real Sophia would suffer a bite from a zombie, and Maxis would inevitably have to kill her, and in a similar way to how Richthofen saved Maxis by transferring his brain to a machine, Maxis would do the same for his love. Sophia would test Primus on trust and try to discern their true intentions, but after having a chance to reunite with Maxis and resolve the paradox, she would leave into the sky, leaving the power core for Primus to take over to Nikolai and repower his mech. And to hold up their end of the bargain, they would need to help Nikolai defeat the dragon. But of course, Primus isn't here for the dragon. They're here for Nikolai.
Who in Linden's name are you? Are you...
We're going to die!
Before fighting Nikolai, you have one more threat to take care of.
Death takes many forms. Today, it is Tokyo. You could not kill me in castle. You could not kill me on island. You will not kill me here.
Only by your drunkenness, Nikolai. Unfortunately, and I really am very sorry.
No help is needed if we are to restore peace.
If you surrender.
Russians know nothing of surrender.
This is not surrender, my Russian friend. This is a chance for redemption. His war, then his friend.
When victory is mine, I will bathe in your blood. Look around you, Nikolai. This world is beyond saving. Things are forgotten. For a reason! You underestimate simple Soviet with nothing to lose.
You're looking at the nothing to lose club. All we got left is each other.
You are anything but underestimated. We all know what it is to lose. Line yourself with enemy!
Turns out the dragon was nothing compared to an angry Russian man. In the end, though, Ultimus Nikolai would be the one to fall.
I am sorry, Nikolai. I wish there was another way. But know this, in my heart, I share the same pain as you. The pain that you have buried and blurred beneath an alcohol-fueled haze. Yes, the pain of your own memory.
It's revealed that after defeating Mech Nikolai, he would tell us that the stories of his wives and all his adventures were largely false, and that he used drinking as a coping mechanism to mask the pain of loss and losing his one and only love. The two Nikolais compare how they handled their response to loss, and one of them used pain as a purpose to push him forward. The other used endless drinking and a morbid imagination to mask the pain of his.
For a reason!
It is done. The souls have been collected, Maxis. We will see you soon.
Now, with all of the pain said and done, the last soul would be collected and sent up to the house. Only witnessing 3 souls being sent up, Richthofen's being clearly absent, Dr. Monty would reach out to the other 3, leaving Richthofen out of this conversation.
Nikolai, Dempsey, Takeo, I'm only talking to you right now. Richthofen, he can't hear me, so he's probably off doing his own thing right now anyway. No change there, I suppose. The good news is, you're nearly done. It'll soon be time to come to the house. But this plan, this big plan, a lot of it's been riding on Richthofen. Before he caught up with you guys, he spent years traveling, searching out just the right versions of you. The ones who held the key to closing off the other dimensions. I think you know by now exactly what that entails. Point is, he's kind of surplus to requirements these days. He's been in the house for ages, but don't tell him. Anyway, it all makes sense when you get here. You'll see. Honestly, it's going to be fine. Oh, shit. I completely forgot to introduce myself. Oh, sorry. I'm Dr. Monty. Hello. So nice to see you all.
It would be revealed here that even though the innocent souls were upstairs in the house playing and under Dr. Monty's supervision, Maxis was still vulnerable. The Shadow Man, even from within the summoning key, would be able to communicate and influence Maxis, as his vessel had a mind but no soul, making him very vulnerable to the influence of the Shadow Man, and he convinced Maxis to release him.
Okay. Let's recap a bit, shall we? This was meant to be a new start, really. A perfect world. Free from all the evil that had corrupted each and every corner of the known and unknown universe. It was going to be a place of safety for the kids, the little yous. You little... well, so far, so good. But things started to go wrong soon after you arrived. Now, I can understand your initial shock coming face to face with Maxis, especially after so long. But you did the right thing. You followed the plan. You brought the summoning key here, and you destroyed that bloody machine once and for all. Thing is, Maxis went and ballsed everything up.
Please, you must help me.
He heard voices, you see, calling to him.
Only together can we prevent the destruction of your world.
It wasn't really his fault. You know, he hasn't actually got his soul yet. All I got was a brain. Anyway, the key thing, as in the thing that is key, is that Max is fiddled around with the summoning thingamajig and accidentally released an even bigger bastard. Someone even I didn't know was in there. The Shadow Man. The one and only original Harbinger of Doom.